Good morning, everybody. We are live and recording. Welcome to CertaPay's Coffee Break series. This is coffee break number 19 of the year, and today we're talking about the 2021 holiday events, which is a perfect time because here we are in November, which I still keep checking. How has this year gone so fast? So I'm your host, Rachel Comella, with CertaPay's fabulous HR team. We've got two moderators this morning, Tammy Dawson and Janet Lang, two of the best. So thank you all for joining us. I am drinking a delicious Guatemala from Temple Coffee, which I love. I did it as a Chemex pour over. And I also have a dark roast double espresso for Cindy Merkel. So cheers, everybody.
Very good.
Tammy, what do you have?
Oh, now, Rachel, you know what I have.
I know you have a Dr. Pepper.
I've already
Diet Dr. Pepper.
From coffee to my Dr. Pepper, but I am one that embraces the pumpkin spice lattes. So I did have a little pumpkin spice this morning. So I do enjoy that it is pumpkin season. It took me a while to make that transition and to embrace, but once you've embraced it, you can't go back. So.
That's right. Just not in a cheese.
Not in a cheese. Goodness. That's a good takeaway.
Janet, how about you? Do you have a coffee this morning?
Janet's brewing her coffee right now.
I know. She went to the kitchen.
She's like, I know I forgot something. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no worries. Let's dig into parties and socials and holiday events. And so today, this is a little bit more of a fun topic. We've had some pretty serious topics all year. And so today, we just want everybody to take a deep breath and enjoy it. And please ask us questions. And I'm going to ask you some questions as we go as well. So be ready. And you can just type your questions and answers right in the chat box, or send a message to either Tammy or Janet, and they will chime in with the question, and we can have it be a little bit lighter and interactive this morning. That would be fantastic. Everybody good?
Super.
All right. So today we're going to talk about the do's and don'ts of your holiday events, and also give you some ideas and things you might want to consider. We're not telling you what to do or what not to do. We're just going to kind of give you some of these ideas out there and help you stay in compliance and stay safe and focus on your employees and your team this year, which is something that we all need. So the point is to celebrate. That's the idea. You want to really point out some of the successes of the year. People are exhausted. You know, we've heard so many comments from our business leaders and business owners like you guys, where your team has expressed that, you know, they need a break. They need some positive energy. They need some, they need some normalcy. So wherever possible, let's try to put that into the mix and help with that morale boost that is so much needed right now. And so think about some of the things you can focus on. Celebrate the successes that your business has had this year, or individual people success that you might have, or anything like that. Pull together some real things to celebrate and let that guide you to your holiday plans, and let that be your focus. Maybe you do awards, have some kind of awards ceremony or awards event, awards party. And it doesn't have to be, the best and most of everything, but maybe think of some other things that are outside of the box. Maybe you're honoring something that's unusual, or, maybe even an attendance award, or, there's some different kinds of awards, most energy, or most creative, or, just there can be different awards. It doesn't always have to be based on the success of numbers, but think of different things that you can honor that have occurred for you and your business throughout the year. And so we can talk about, how to do this in person, virtual, or a mix. And we're going to kind of cover all of those things. How are we doing so far?
So far, so good.
Mhm.
All right.
Everything
And
looks
there's
good.
Janet. So some of the do's. First thing you want to do is have a plan. And the reason you want to have a plan is because there may be more things to factor in this year. So it's not as easy as before you get to the beginning of December, you can kind of put together a quick party plan and go from there. Start to plan now. It really pays off and makes a difference, especially if you have to create kind of a hybrid in your event. So planning is important. And one thing you might want to do is take a look at the majority of your group. If everybody is back in the office, then that's going to be your starting point. You're going to create an event that is for the majority. If the majority of your folks are remote, then use that as your majority and create an event that is a remote event. And so think about what your majority is. And it's also a good time to kind of gauge what the employees want in terms of a celebration. You know, maybe people are really, even though you're back in the office, they may not really want a big party where everybody's getting together. So do, you know, a quick survey of some kind. Would you rather have an in-person, a hybrid, a remote, but kind of figure out what does the majority want, what makes sense, and then do your plans on that. And so also another reason to start planning now, because you need the time to get some of this feedback so that you can go in the right direction. Do stay pretty close to your area's safe guidelines. So we know that in different states and even within different counties within your states, there are some different guidelines. So pay attention to those and then practice those safe guidelines within your area and factor that into your plans, whatever that looks like. So, you know, maybe if you're having a function that's outdoors, you're within all your safe guidelines, or maybe if you're indoors, but you can create social distancing, or, you know, maybe if you're Florida, it's a free-for-all, who knows? And encourage attendance. Tammy's shaking her head. I'm already in trouble. So encourage attendance. You want people to come to this event or participate in this event, whatever that looks like. You want to get them to participate. Now, I say that carefully because on the HR side, you want to think of things. If you make it mandatory, then you need to think of pay and FLSA. And, you know, if you're asking people to participate and attend, then this is a work function and that's a paid function. So pay attention to some of the language. And if it's just, hey, we're having an event, come if you want, don't if you don't, you know, there's some different parameters there. So stay within the guidelines, but, you know, encourage people to participate because it's good for the soul. It's good for morale. It's good for connecting everybody. And so whatever that means, if it's a virtual event, a hybrid, in person, whatever it is, if you get everybody together, you're going to generate some really nice energy and participation and engagement. And we all know from our previous coffee breaks, the engagement is a really important piece because when your employees are engaged, they stay. And when they stay, you don't lose a ton of money with that turnover and retention issue. So anything that you can do to keep that engagement piece intact, and this is no different. Any questions so far?
Feel free to ask questions or pop a question in the chat. I'm keeping a watch on the chat box.
All right. Some of the don'ts. So don't ignore your company's norms or company policies. You want to kind of stay within what your guidelines are. Don't deviate too far. So if you create, you know, some full disco party that's way outside the norms of your company's workplace standards and norms, then it's kind of a recipe for a problem. And on the HR side, this is what we talk about. When you have something that deviates so far from what your norm is where you end up with issues. And then, of course, that takes you to the alcohol question. If you've got a free-flowing open bar at the party, and then, you know, your normal workplace norms are out the window, and now people are getting intoxicated, you really have a recipe for a situation now that you have to deal with on Monday morning. So if you can minimize some of these, stay kind of close to your workplace norms and guidelines, minimize the alcohol, and then don't change the attire too much. You know, if you go from normal business attire and work appropriate clothing to, you know, nightclub dress at a holiday party, you know, now you have people, you get a different mindset. And so that's where we end up with, you know, problems and situations. You know, you have that drunk person on the dance floor who falls down and their dress is over their head.
That was a good visual.
And that may or may not be a real example. So the other thing that's important is stay pretty close to your budget, but be mindful of what that budget is. If you have had issues with pay increases or with your financials throughout the year, don't have a huge party that blows your financial budget out the window. Be mindful of what your year has looked like and be aware that your employees know that. Your employees know what the financial situation is for the year. And so putting a huge amount of money into a holiday party may send a message that you don't intend to send. So be mindful of that. Match where you are with that. And pay close attention, because that could create issues that, you know, you're not thinking about or you're not ready to deal with. So keep the budget for the party or event in line with where you've been this year. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So now here is where I want you to think about, I'm going to talk about some of these, but please think about some of your own. Maybe you've got a different idea that you want to share with us. So I'm going to ask that question after I go through this list. And if you have any additional questions or ideas, we'd love for you to share them. So some of the virtual ideas that we have seen so far that people are planning are creating a main stage event. So we had one client, and what they did is they are still completely remote. And so what they did is they hired a comedian. And so the comedian is going to come, they're all going to be online and have their conversations initially, and then turn it over to the main event, which is this comedian. And such a great idea. So you can create a main stage of some kind. Maybe you have a musician, or you have a magician, or some other kind of artist, or, you know, a comedian is always a good one in this day and age. And so think about something that could be a main stage where you've got everybody in their home offices or in their home space where they attend this session virtually, and you have a main stage. It's a great way to pull everybody together with a focus. A game night. Janet just sent me a link for a terrific virtual werewolf, which if anybody has played the game Werewolf or One Night Werewolf, it's just a lot of fun. And so to connect everybody with a game is a great idea. And you can do this for your virtual event or meeting. So you create, you know, whatever the window of time is, and then everybody is playing the game together. And there are so many sites now where you can do a virtually managed game night for all of your folks, where you don't actually have to be the one to manage it. You just pass it over to one of these sites, and they can help you manage a virtual game night that's really a lot of fun and engaging and something unique. So don't be afraid to try some of these. We had another client who did kind of a cooking class. So they hired a chef who was going to teach a cooking session. So one idea was going through where you're watching like a cooking show where this virtual chef is going to help build this fantastic holiday menu. So one idea there, or even we had another client who they sent all the materials in a box to all of the employees, and they did the cooking class together virtually. So they had all of the materials and ready to go. And so everybody had their, they were going to plan, the plan was set up their computers in their kitchen areas, and they were all going to do this cooking class together. So some really fun holiday ideas that are around cooking. And along the game night idea is to do a trivia, same thing, either certificates to order in food or get have Grubhub send the same dinner to everybody, or lunch or breakfast, whatever it is, and then do a trivia game. So you've got everybody virtually playing the trivia game together, and you have your meal is delivered in. Similar, those three have similar concepts behind them. And then finally, the tastings. This is something I've really seen lately, and it's just blowing up because it can be whiskey, scotch, wine, beer, coffee, chocolate, breakfast, coffee and breakfast biscuits or breakfast pastries. There are so many different things you can do. And when we talk about the alcohol, you're controlling it. So if it is an evening social event where you want to do something with alcohol as an option, and you do a tasting, you get these little kits and, 4 little different tastings of each one. So, it ends up, each person has, 2 ounces of alcohol or some small amount. So it's not, it's not really a drinking event, but it's a very social event. And again, you can do it with coffee or tea or chocolates, or, there are endless items that you can do this with, and everybody gets together and you either have a guided tasting or a lesson or something together, or you're just sharing the time. Okay, so any new fresh ideas that you guys have or something you're planning that's different in terms of a virtual event? Watching the chat box.
Yes, we'd love to hear your ideas. I've seen the tasting one work. It is a lot of fun. This particular one, it was kind of a blend between the hire a chef and a tasting, because it was actually a mixer. So you brought your ingredients together, and then the mixologist showed us how to make some fancy drinks. And to your point, it was, it was more fun than alcohol, which was nice. So.
Yeah, it's a little spin on that. And I think, people were seeing some, of course, we've got these challenges. So we have to figure out, okay, how do we keep it social? How do we keep it fun and entertaining when we have some limitations? And, that's the best thing about humans, is we're going to figure out how to be social. That's just the name of the game.
This, we kind of got to this point as far as the conversation through COVID, but we've always had associates that have worked remote. So this is a way for the company may have a lunch or a dinner or a cocktail party with the people that are local, but we don't want to forget about those that are remote, be it for COVID reasons or non-COVID reasons. And what can we do for those other associates so that they can still feel part of the team? So it really opens up the conversation.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing about these, and some of these we are going to talk about on our in-person page, but any of this you can do in person as well, or create a hybrid, so that if you're going to have a main stage event where you're going to have a comedian or a musician or wherever it is, you can have the in-person group and the virtual group and blend them. So any of these things can be a hybrid as well. All right, so in person, some of the hot trends that we've kind of talked about this year are, a fireside event. So people like to have, the idea of a big bonfire, and, anything that has kind of like a camping flair to it, where you might have a barbecue dinner meal and s'mores, and, everybody's kind of gathered around. And when you're doing an in-person event, anything that you can do outside right now will minimize some of that exposure that we talk about as being a safety issue. So outdoor events are a great way to do this if you want to keep an indoor event, or if you want to have an in-person event. Having it outdoors kind of solves a lot of those issues. Outdoor scavenger hunts are a nice way, because you're not, one-on-one in person right in front of somebody in a closed space. So you can do a scavenger hunt, or you've got, even if you have a blend of inside and outside, you've got people moving through open space, and you're minimizing that exposure again. And the other thing, when you have when you're making your plans for these events, you can kind of factor in, the idea of who's vaccinated and who's not, if you have that information, if you've crossed that bridge yet. We've got some guidance coming down right now that's going to help us with the next few weeks, a couple months, and how we prepare for January, but something you might factor into your decision of which direction to go for a holiday event.
Sure.
And then going back to these last three, of course, we saw on the other page, and they have a lot of similarities, but you can go to a facility where you do these events. You can either hire a chef to come into your building where you have people in different areas or stations, or you could even do it by department so that it's not a bigger event. You can have some smaller event by department, or go to a facility where you're spaced out. So in a cooking class, there's built-in social distance because everybody is at a different cooking station or prep station. So it's a nice thing to consider, where again, it's very social, and you're doing something, you're having a good time, you're also learning something at the same time. Trivia and game night in a restaurant or in a venue, these are always fun. You can team people up again by department or by a work partner or mentors, or pair people up who don't know each other. There are so many things you can do with this, or just have teams and have a nice trivia night in a restaurant. Again, when you do that, oftentimes you can pick a venue or space that has some nice social distance built into it. So something to consider there that really makes a nice event. And then finally, tastings, again, you can host that in your facility, you can go to a location, and you can pull in your virtual folks and get everybody covered at the same time. So this is a nice one to do as a hybrid if you want to. It really makes for a lot of fun. How about any ideas for in-person events coming this year?
Let's see, we've got a comment or question here in the chat. What are your thoughts on the traditional potlucks? Any particular liabilities come to mind? Good question.
Yeah, it's a good question. My first thought is, there's no additional liability than there always was. You've got people are cooking and bringing in different things from the store, from their homes or whatever. It's the same issue. I would probably be a little bit more concerned about food poisoning than anything else. But, same kind of concerns. It's more about the people being together in a closed space. So if you want to have a traditional potluck, I think those are a great social engagement event that creates a really nice event. Just think about your space. And so instead of having a potluck where everybody goes to the company kitchen, maybe you spread it out and you have some space where you can do the potluck, but it's in a larger, more open space, or have it in your courtyard, or, do something so that when you get people together, you're creating that social distance within your spaces. And again, think about the questions like vaccinations, masks. What are your company policies? Where are you right now with that? That might guide your decision a little bit better. Tammy, Janet, how would you guys speak to that?
I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I think that's the best guidance. You've seen some where they will say that the, main course, maybe the meat item will be paid for and brought in, from a different vendor, and everybody bring the sides. So I think, yeah, it's everything we've already talked about. And I love the idea of maybe spreading it out or having it even outdoors, barring weather conditions, of course. So.
Yeah, sorry, North Dakota. You guys will probably have to stay inside. Actually, maybe not. They're probably used to it, and it's only November, so it's like 10 degrees. They're good. All right. So any other questions or thoughts? I'm going to go through kind of these final thoughts, but don't be afraid to add in a comment or add some additional questions there. No worries. The The final thoughts are have a plan. Whatever it is, it's not too early to plan. Now's the time, because you may have to do a little bit of extra planning this year to accommodate everybody. And make it a real celebration. Think about some of the real pluses and the real successes you've had throughout this year with your team and with your business, and share that. Have some nice transparency. Share the business successes you've had. It goes a long way. It really gives people a nice sense of comfort and security, and especially at this time of year. So, make that focus about celebrating the successes of the year. And be considerate. You've got a lot of different people and different viewpoints and different working situations. So, add in that layer of consideration for all the different people involved. And then you can have a really nice holiday event this year.
We do have one question that's popped up on the chat. Are employers really dividing folks up by vax versus unvax?
No, and we're not recommending that. I'm just saying that gives you information about how you can plan and prepare. And like I said, that consideration is important because, we've got some strong viewpoints this year. And so we want to be considerate of all the different thoughts that are out there and the different concepts. And it's a fine line. We've got to be respectful of these different views and really work to accommodate everyone as best we can. And so, no, we're not seeing people divided like that. We're only seeing it taken into consideration for the big picture and how to create a safe environment for everybody. And we want to encourage you not to be divisive like that, but really figure out a plan that creates a nice, safe working environment for everybody.
Right, and we've been seeing from the CDC, and there's nothing that's showing any indication, although the information is very fresh coming from OSHA, but the more events that potentially can be held outdoors, so say you had like a food truck event and the food trucks come and everybody's outdoors and there's some tables and tents, then it does lessen some of the mask wearing because people are eating, plus you're outdoors, and then there'd be less of any appearance of potentially a divide. So that's seems to be pretty consistent with what we're seeing from the multiple agencies.
Right. And you can create such a nice outdoor event using any of these different ideas or some of your own, but it's a nice way to do it if it's possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some of the food truck venues, they're actually making them more like formal. They're actually just food truck venues. So I haven't participated in one yet, but I've heard they're a lot of fun. I'm like, it kind of makes sense, but it makes sense more globally, not just now. So fun. People can pick and choose what they want to eat, and you're still outdoors. So
yeah, there's some nice ways to do it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yep. What other questions?
Great questions. Any other comments or anything to share?
Yeah, we want to hear what plans you guys have. I know we're goodness, 2 weeks from Thanksgiving. I know I said that out loud. Sorry about that. But what kind of thoughts is everybody thinking? What have you seen work well? And
I think we should all hire a comedian.
It's a great idea.
I know, that's a good one. Well, all right, guys. As always, these will be up on our website, and we are here to help you. SertaPay appreciates all of you, and we thank you for your participation. And if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We are here to help you. The HR team is ready for your issues, and we are not afraid of them either. We have great solutions ready to go. So everybody have a great day. Thank you for joining us on Coffee Break, and we will see you next time.